Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a alarming pattern that will be occurring or developing as we go into the long range. Now, I've made several videos in the past at around similar times of the year because we are entering a time period of late summer and early fall where we see these strong high pressures build and as a result cause extreme heat waves. And right now we are dealing with one currently across the United States with heat warnings of all kinds issued across the United States. I'm sure if you live across the central and southern United States, you are dealing with some pretty extreme heat. However, I want to tell you that that most likely will continue at least into the long range. There will be a cool down into next week, but it looks as if this heat will be redeveloping, and this is coming on top of many areas that are suffering with drought pretty bad, may I add, across either the southern United States, across the coastal areas, and across the Midwest and Upper Plains. And that's where really this heat may be the worst. As you can see, the GFS is projecting pretty far out some extreme heat. Now, obviously, this changes, but you don't have to go that far out to show these extreme heat or to see this extreme heat developing. So let's start off now. Right now, we are dealing obviously with this extreme anomaly across the central United States that is delivering very, very, very warm temperatures. Tomorrow, many cities will be breaking records across the plains, and this is going to be accompanied by with very little moisture. And you can see that the cool air is mainly towards the north. That's marked by the blue colors. Thankfully, it does move in relatively quickly, right, across the central United States. You can see kind of breaking down that heat from those extreme anomalies by this Monday and Sunday. But you can see very, very hot temperatures persist, especially across British Columbia, the western United States, and that's not good either. You know, we had extreme wildfires across much of Canada this year so far, and you know, this heat, especially across the west here, may not help whatsoever. There will be a little cool patch of cool air into next week, so we go from a very strong heat wave into potentially even some cooler air by midweek next week. And this is supported by both the GFS and the European model to some extent. However, after that, once you get through that cool kind of air moves in by, or moves out by early to mid next week, so around a week from today, and you can see we could see some of this heat inch back in, and the GFS shows that with quite some intensity, and you can see all that heat off just towards the north and west, and that eventually does move in. The cool air becomes a lot more limited, and yes, it is September at this point, but still, it doesn't take much to create some pretty nasty temperatures, and you can see 80s, 90s, pretty widespread across these areas. There will be some cool air that tries to sneak in, but again, it will most likely be limited as forecasted by these models. And if you look at the 8 to 14 day outlook by the Climate Prediction Center, it definitely favors warm temperatures and dry temperatures across much of the eastern and central United States, where that drought is really bad. Across the west, you can see the temperatures may stay more closer to kind of average, as there will be periods of extreme heat, but they will be relatively short. So when you take it overall from 8 to 14 days, it will be more averaged out, and you can see a little bit more moisture maybe sneaking in. 6 to 10 day outlook, so a bit less further out. Again, that cool wave into early next week definitely making a presence, and that heat may be focused more across the central and kind of northwestern United States into early next week. But again, you could see even when it does turn a bit cooler across the Midwest and eastern United States, it stays dry across these areas that really need that water. So that is definitely not good. And the only areas that are staying wetter is the west and the extreme east right there. So definitely not good for the central United States, especially if you wanted any of that drought relief. So that is definitely not the best of news. Let's go on now and show you the European model. This is another model that I really like to use. It shows the temperatures probably at a better perception in GFS, and you can see it shows some extreme heat across the Midwest these next 2 days, and that's where this current heat wave we are dealing with is ongoing. But just like the GFS, it takes this heat and gradually kind of shifts it towards the south, inviting a little bit of cool air into early next week and into this weekend. However, that moves out again, and by next week, pretty much again a week from today, Thursday, Friday, we start seeing that heat resurface, and you can see the European doesn't show anomalies that are extreme, but they're definitely warm, and you can see that the actual Fahrenheit readings are going to be in 80s and 90s, and the European sometimes I think shows these temperatures a little too maybe not as aggressive as it should, while the GFS does the opposite, where it shows them more aggressively. If you look at the ensembles, which is a really good representation because it's more of an average look, so you don't have as much extremes. And let's go to their 2-meter temperature anomaly. So this is GFS and its family. So you could see that there's that heat wave ongoing right now. It moves on. We get a little bit of that cool air moving in, and then we see that warm air return by early September. Again, that cool air, according to this GEFS, may linger for a little bit longer, which would be nice. But again, that heat comes back, and you can see it shows quite a strong anomaly very far out into the future at 342 hours. With the European ensemble models, these go out to 384 hours as well. Let's take a look at this again, showing that heat right now. A little bit of cool, and by the way, there won't be much rain that comes with this cool down. It's there may be a little bit of rain towards the north, but nothing of substantive really amounts. And you can see that the European, just like the GFS, shows that heat returning by the first week of September, and maybe some signs of cooling off into really far out into the future. But again, predominantly staying warm and also dry. If you look at the precipitation anomaly, it is mainly dry for the areas that have this drought ongoing. So that is definitely not something we'd like to see. And yeah, the GFS and European are definitely both indicative of a warmer and drier pattern as we head into fall. Canadian, I don't really like this model as much, but I'll still show you it. And you can see that it does show that current heat wave, right, across the central United States, a little bit of that cool down. Then it shows that heat. It shows that cooldown, as you can see, differently from the European and GFS. Hangs on for a lot longer, but it does too eventually move away and give way towards the warm air. But it only takes us out to 240 hours, so we don't know. One thing that they're all pretty consistent in is showing a little precipitation for the central United States in the areas that they need it most. Quite a bit for the northeast and some across the west and southwest. GFS for its 240 model or hours out, similar. You can see a little bit across the southwest, the east coast, predominantly seeing some rain, and everywhere else pretty much high and dry. As you go out even further, you can see that pattern mainly continues, so that's why it is alarming. It's not good. We don't really want a drought, developing further, and some of these areas already had a pretty bad drought, and it looks as if it will continue to get worse, unfortunately. East, where they don't have the drought, they'll continue seeing rain, so, that's nice, but again, it would be really nice to see some more rain across the central and eastern and southern, northwestern, central, and southern United States areas. And you can see the European model pretty much in agreement with that as well. Not much precipitation chances. Shows a little bit there, but again, that's really nothing of great significance, especially given the fact that it shows some pretty high temperatures in terms of their anomalies. So I'll keep you guys updated, but for now, that's all I have. Temperatures are pretty hard to predict notoriously, as they do change around. Let me show you what I mean by that. So the GFS, the current model run, this is what it shows 384 hours out today, right, or at the most recent model run. And just a few hours earlier, this is what it showed. So you can see a complete difference. But, despite that, I'm still sticking with the warm weather scenario and a heat wave because if you look prior to that, the GFS, even the one that showed that cool air, it still showed that heat resurfacing, and it was more inclined to show even more heat earlier on in the day. So it seems as if that cool weather model was more of an outlier. I mean, you could see what it showed in the morning, some incredible heat anomalies here, a little bit of a cool down as well, but not long before even another one moves in. So yeah, some of these, if this were to come true right here, we would have temperatures in the 90s during the middle of the night here. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but unfortunately it's definitely a possibility. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.